On my first day in office earlier this year, I signed an executive order to officially designate the drug cartels and savage transnational gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. It was my honor to do so. And on that same day, I also signed an order directing the creation of the Homeland Security Task Force to bring together all federal, state, and local partners to achieve the national policy goal of eliminating the cartel presence in America once and for all. And the results are, and it's early, and the results are spectacular.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, fellow Americans, today I want to talk about a war that's been raging right on our doorstep. A war that's claimed more lives than many of our foreign conflicts combined. It's the war against drugs. Fueled by ruthless Mexican cartels that flood our streets with poison. And at the heart of this discussion is why we should recognize the bold actions of President Donald Trump. In bombing those drug boats, vessels carrying death straight to our shores. But let's be thorough. I'll back this with stories of cartel horror, grim tally of U.S. death, the massive seizures in 2025, the bloody fights between narco organizations, and real solutions to end this nightmare. Everything ties back to one truth. Disrupting the supply at sea saves lives. First, let's confront the monsters we're dealing with, the cartels.
Well, what have you got? What have you found?
That's the story of this place. A volunteer brigade of mothers discovered the ovens, the more than 150 pairs of shoes dumped here, the multitude of clothes, some of them children's. And they did it 6 months after Jalisco state authorities had seized the ranch, reported nothing, and abandoned it.
We found 3 ovens, and in the middle one, when we dug down further, we found bullets, teeth, and fragments of burnt bodies.
The group says survivors told them that the ranch was used not just as an extermination center, but training camp.
Over there was an obstacle course where they made recruits crawl across the floor. There are tires. They had them in forced training, and whoever couldn't do it, they eliminated them.
We couldn't verify any of that with the authorities present because they wouldn't talk to us about the ranch they brought us to.
Training ranch that behind its black iron doors, investigators found industrial ovens for burning bodies, bone fragments scattered like ashes from a nightmare. This was no farm. It was an extermination site run by the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, where they tortured rivals, recruited foot soldiers by force, and cremated the evidence. Hundreds vanished there, their screams silenced to protect the drug empire.
Go shocked, angry, protests this weekend, shoes in public squares, a reminder of the ownerless ones found in the ranch. Authorities have started to move. The Attorney General's announced an investigation into local officials suspected of collusion. The President's pushing through wider reforms to strengthen the National Search Commission and try to find the country's more than 115,000 disappeared.
Perhaps the only good thing that you can say about this horror is that it's finally jolted the country's government into taking action after years of downplaying the issue of the disappeared.
Or take Sinaloa, home of the infamous Sinaloa Cartel. After U.S. forces captured Ismael El Mayo Zambada in 2024, all hell broke loose.
An ode to the cartel, as bullets rained down. With an alleged cartel kingpin behind bars, civilian killings have run rampant as his turf spiraled into chaos, having risen by more than 400%. Footage verified from social media shows intense clashes, burned out vehicles, and narco patrols throughout the streets of Sinaloa's capital city and towns across the region. From early 2020 until the capture of Ismael El Mayo Zambada in July of 2024, a civilian was murdered in targeted violence every 2 days. Now, it's every 6 hours, our investigation found. The cartel has evolved into a major drug trafficking ring with a reputation for using violence to maintain control.
Homicides skyrocketed 400%. Over 1,800 dead in a year. Bodies mutilated and dumped on streets. 57 kids caught in the crossfire. Factions, led by El Chapo's sons, burned highways, shot at planes, and left families shattered. These aren't just stories. They're the reality of cartels that control a third of Mexico, using IEDs, mass graves, decapitations to guard their smuggling routes. Routes that end in boats loaded with fentanyl and coke bound for America. And Mexicans' leadership, Sheinbaum, is that how you say it? Sheinbaum, blames Trump even though her country is controlled by terrorists. It's somehow Trump's fault. If we take a look at these next 2 clips, I think you'll find them interesting.
Record levels of violence are forcing businesses to close as their customers, now afraid to leave their homes, have disappeared.
There were days when there was maybe one customer, if there even was one, because people don't go out at night.
Now, Mexico's military is ramping up its response. Armored convoys roll through shopping centers, and military helicopters circle nearby. A year after El Mayo's capture, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum emphasized how the circumstances of his stateside arrest are driving the violence.
Ahora, es importante cómo se dio esto y la valoración de cómo fue la intervención en su momento de agencias o de instituciones del gobierno de los Estados Unidos de año.
Her comments were days before reports say that President Donald Trump instructed the Pentagon to use military force against some cartels he believes to be terrorist organizations, among them the Sinaloa cartel.
Now, what I find fascinating is her pointing fingers at our leadership while Mexico has been a bed of corruption since the 70s. First, Mexican groups assisted the Guadalajara gangs from Colombia and grew into a major powerhouse by the early 1980s, shedding blood in the streets back then and continuing to today.
U.S. fentanyl deaths are in hundreds of thousands, and although border seizures have dropped 30% this year, the crisis is nowhere near under control. Under U.S. pressure, Mexico has cracked down. Labs raided, arrests made. Banks exposed for laundering cartel money. But the violence keeps spreading.
Trump's strikes hit those boats hard. Over 16 operations since September of 2025. Taking out 130 narco-terrorists. Praise him for that. It's a direct blow to the heart of this violence. Preventing these horrors from spilling more blood on our side. Now, the cost here at home, deaths by drugs. Check it out.
In the U.S., fentanyl is killing more people than any other illicit drug.
Fentanyl overdoses are now leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49.
And almost all of it comes from Mexico.
It's fentanyl pills like these that have killed thousands of Americans and have caused immeasurable tension between the United States and Mexico.
President Trump has demanded Mexico curb the flow of the drug over the border or face crippling tariffs, even military invasion.
The drug cartels are waging war in America.
Mexico's going to have to straighten it out really fast.
In 2022, we lost 110,000 souls to overdoses, the peak of this plague. But in 2025, something interesting shifted. Deaths dropped 21% to just under 80,000. That's the biggest decline in decades, saving thousands. Opioids drove 2/3 of those, and fentanyl nearly 60%. The fentanyl saturated the market, scaring off new users, and overall drug use fell. But credit where it's due, Trump's border crackdown, including those boat bombings, played a role. Reports tie the plunge to intensified enforcement, disrupting cartel supplies before they poison our communities. Imagine, without these actions, models show 109,000 more lives to opiate deaths since 2016. Trump's campaign declared armed conflict on cartels, and the numbers back it. Overdose rates fell to 23 per 100,000. We can do better, but that's pretty good.
Where the Coast Guard today making history as the Coast Guard announcing the largest drug offload in history, totaling nearly $500 million at the Florida port. The U.S. Coast Guard says crews offloaded 61,000 pounds of cocaine and 14,000 pounds of bulk marijuana at the Port Everglades in South Florida.
They were assisted by the other ships, as he mentioned before, the Hamilton, Diligence, the Vigilant, the USS Cole, USS Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the frigate Friesland from the Dutch. It was a glorious grouping of ships at a single time, and to bring together the large offload that you see here today.
It's not perfect. We still lose 200 lives a day. But bombing those boats, it stems the tide, earning praise for saving American families from the cartel's grip. Let's talk seizures. The proof of progress, in 2025, U.S. authorities hauled in records. 47 million fentanyl pills. That is enough to kill 369 million lethal to Americans. 567,000 pounds of cocaine, 173,000 pounds of meth, and 2,700 pounds of heroin. The Coast Guard alone grabbed 510,000 pounds of coke, 193 million doses. Border Patrol seized millions of pounds of cocaine worth $11 billion. Fentanyl pills got weaker too. Only 29% lethal now, down from 76%. These aren't accidents. They're from operations like the boat strikes, destroying vessels in the Pacific and Caribbean. Trump called them drug-carrying boats run by terrorists like Tren de Aragua.
A lethal strike. Breaking news. Brand new video you're looking at the moment. The President Trump said the U.S. military struck a suspected drug boat tied to the Cartel Tren de Aragua. Trump said 11 people, drug traffickers, he says, were killed in this strike.
The Trump administration released footage of a strike that took place on October 17th. It's the seventh known U.S. strike on alleged drug vessels since last month, which have killed over 30 people. The military actions are causing tensions between the U.S., Venezuela, and now Colombia. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro accused the U.S. of committing murder in a post on social media, alleging a U.S. strike in September killed a Colombian fisherman. President Trump responded calling Petro an illegal drug leader and says he would cut off U.S. aid to Colombia. The president says the military strikes are necessary to stop the flow of illegal drugs.
By September of 2025, the first strike killed 11. By February, the 2026, the toll was 145. Critics cry some strikes hit survivors, raising legal questions, but praise the results. These seizures tie directly to fewer drugs on our streets, fewer deaths. It's Trump's vision in action, hitting cartels where it hurts, before their poison reaches us, and the dealer fights. That's the gun-soaked underbelly. Take a look.
Since 2006, nearly 500,000 Mexicans have died in drug-related violence, and more than 120,000 are still missing. and every week brings a new headline soaked in blood. Now, with two cartels at war and a possible super alliance rising, Mexico faces a question no one wants to ask out loud. What happens when the monsters stop fighting each other and start fighting everyone else?
In Sinaloa, 2025, 1,700 died in infighting, shootouts, kidnappings, minors slain. Total drug war deaths, 350 to 400,000. The spillover hits us too. Remember the 2014 South Carolina kidnapping? A man chained for days over his dad's $200,000 cartel debt. These fights are not abstract. They're over the same routes Trump's strikes target. By bombing boats, we weaken the cartels, reducing their need to kill for control. Sure, strikes killed 11 in one day alone, but that's the cost of war against groups who have murdered hundreds of thousands. Praise Trump for treating it as armed conflict, not just some policing. Finally, fixing the mess. Bombings are vital, but not enough. We need prevention, better prescribing, harm reduction, test strips, safe use education, medications for opioid disorder, and counseling peer support. Focus on the health, not the jails. Fund the recovery, diversion programs. Wastewater tracking for early warnings. Federally, HHS's strategies emphasize data, pain management, and recovery. Trump's approach adds supply disruption. Praise him for that muscle, but pair it with demand-side fixes. Without both, cartels will adapt, and everything will circle back. Stories of the ovens and massacres, 73 to 79,000 U.S. deaths, record seizures, dealer bloodbaths, all scream for action. Trump's boat bombings, I believe, are a praiseworthy strike against evil, saving lives by severing the vein. But let's build on it the health and enforcement hope.
Overdose deaths are dropping in Alabama and across the nation. We're talking a significant decline. Our Ashlyn Mitchell is taking a deeper dive into the local numbers and explains why access to Narcan might be helping.
We still need to keep working toward it, but we're thrilled to see these numbers coming down. We're losing fewer people, and that's wonderful news.
The truth is simple, yet so heavy. Too many of us turn to drugs to escape. But life, real, raw, beautiful life, is worth staying present for. Why run from something so precious? What we truly need isn't another high. It's deeper roots. Faith to guide us when the path feels dark. Love that holds us through the storms. Family and friends who remind us we're never alone. A strong moral compass and ethical heart that give our days meaning and our choices weight. When we nurture our minds and our spirit with these things, the urge to escape will fade. We start building lives that feel like homes, not prisons. We are all children of God, every single one of us. That means every person struggling, every family that's hurting, deserves our compassion, our help, our village, if you will. Together we can lift each other up, make the human condition a little brighter, and make living truly great again. Stop the escape. Choose the beauty instead. Let living your best life be your everyday vacation, not a fleeting dream, but your reality. Together, we can end this war on our hearts and our homes. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is the dragon reporting from my lair. Good night.